Yo, what's up guys? So the other day, I was doom scrolling my brains out and a video popped up of a guy doing some bushcrafting. He basically used thin stick shavings he got by using a pencil sharpener and candle wax inside a tuna can to make a DIY survival stove. I was so surprised at how well it worked with such basic materials that I decided to make one myself and put it to the test. So it's winter here, and finding dry sticks is an impossible task. But luckily, me from the past knew that saving this giant stick for no reason will come in handy one day. Now this stick is obviously too large to fit into my small pencil sharpener, so I had to break it into smaller pieces, which was surprisingly easy. It probably took me like 10 minutes in total to get this pile. Even though the sticks were now somehow able to fit in the sharpener, they were so dried up that they will basically break at the first twist attempt. So I tried different ways to see if I could get any positive results, but they were just clearly too dry to work. I was like, fine, I'll do it myself, and grabbed one of my wood carving knives and started shaving them down manually, which took me longer than I expected, but it was kind of relaxing to be honest, aside from the fact that I poked my finger. So yeah, I placed everything inside this small aluminum bowl, trying not to make a mess. It clearly didn't work. I ended up putting everything to the side anyway and moved on to the next step, which was getting the materials ready. For the candle wax, I went with beeswax specifically. I read on a candle making blog that it burns slower than other organic types of wax. So I guess that's a feature I want my candle stove to have. Honestly, any candle you have laying around seems to do the trick, I assume. Now, it took a long time and a lot of effort to split this brick of beeswax in half. You have no idea how solid this material is. Not even my best kitchen knife could split it. So I decided to grab some giant scissors and poke it until it split. It took me around 10 minutes of non-stop wrestling with this material. Now, before melting the wax, I want to have my disposable aluminum or tin container ready, which for that I'll use my roommate's sardine can. So I basically just needed to get rid of what's inside. Luckily, my cat was around. Now, getting rid of the smell was a tough one, but I managed to keep it to a minimum after a couple of washes. Now I'm just gonna stuff it a little bit for the first layer so I can come back later with the melted wax and pour it right away without wasting any time. I was thinking about just putting it in a hard plastic container and microwaving it, but the best method I found was using boiling water. You just take a container with the material already inside, place it into the boiling water, and let it gently float. It's supposed to melt pretty quickly, but for this fat block of wax, it ended up taking me 30 minutes, which I believe is too long. I probably did something wrong. But anyway, we still got what we were looking for without making a mess. Alright, now, I quickly went upstairs to my $100 million studio and filled the sardine container with the first layer of beeswax. I guess I gotta wait a bit until the wax cools down before applying the next layer. So more wood, more candle wax, and more waiting. And well, I'm just gonna repeat that over and over again. Now, I knew that candle wax wouldn't last long in its liquid stage, so I tried to be as quick and efficient as possible. It took me around 10 to 15 minutes to complete this project before the whole pot of wax started changing back to its solid state. For the next step, don't forget to like and subscribe, as this helps please the algorithm gods. Okay, while we wait for the camping stove to cool down, I was curious if you can just make a candle out of anything flammable. To answer my question, I grabbed some tobacco rolling paper, twisted it as much as possible, and then submerged it a couple of times into my semi-hardened beeswax. The result was this aberration of a candle. So let's light it up and see what happens. And it sucks. It was stable for a couple of seconds, but then it went out. My guess is that maybe the rolling paper was too thin and burned faster before the beeswax had a chance to melt. But that also makes me wonder, how can it burn slower when it has tobacco inside? And what if I put wax on the inside, kind of like a cigarette candle? Would it even light up? Honestly, I don't know. If you have any idea as to why it went out, leave it in the comments below. Alright, time for the moment of truth. We gotta test this and see if it was actually worth the time and effort. I basically want to test two things: its flame consistency and how long it can burn. Now before that, here goes a disclaimer. Okay, before even lighting it up, I'm going to take some precautions. I've got a huge soaking wet towel to put out the candle in case the flame gets a bit too big. And as the final line of defense, I've got someone holding a fire extinguisher ready for anything. So I'm placing the candle stove inside this small travel grill to keep it more under control. All of this might look like an overkill, but I need to be 100% sure this is actually safe to use. Don't trust everything you see on the internet, kids. Lighting it up wasn't that hard. It took like a second, holding the lighter on each corner of the candle stove, and the flame spread evenly in about a minute. So I'm going for the basics here, which is the boiling water test. If it can do that in a reasonable amount of time, I'm sure it can handle anything else. As the minutes went by and my water was starting to feel warmer. It even had small bubbles, which is a good sign. After 10 minutes, my water was hot, but not burning hot yet. The candle stove seemed to be burning stronger as time went on, and I could still see that it wasn't even 10% consumed. After 20 minutes, my water was burning hot, like extremely hot, but for some strange reason, it wasn't boiling violently like it would on a normal stove. So I decided to stop the test because I realized that the water was evaporating, but it wasn't boiling as strong as I was thinking. So yeah, it did work, but you also need the right equipment. A much smaller pot to boil the water would be ideal. I'm pretty sure it would have boiled quicker and stronger that way. Also, I recommend waiting around 5 minutes before placing anything on it, allowing the candle to light up evenly, and then you shouldn't have a problem. It actually worked a bit better than I was expecting. The flame didn't got out of control, but once I took the boiling pot off, it was definitely a big flame, about 30 centimeters or 12 inches tall. Now, I didn't capture footage of that because I put it out instantly, which also surprised me because it only took one blow to put it out. Once the candle stove cooled down again, I realized that all of that power and burning only used about 10% of the wax. So yeah, this thing really works and it does it well. The best part is that it cannot get wet thanks to the wax being hydrophobic, but I'm sure it would still go out in rainy conditions, just like a regular candle. So there you have it, guys. It's kind of an ambiguous experiment because there are a lot of things that can impact how well your candle stove performs, like the type of sticks, type of wax containers, or even weather conditions like moisture and wind. The cool thing is that it will definitely work for a fair amount of time, but be extra careful when playing with fire. It's definitely not something to joke around with. Use an adult to help you out, and if you're already an adult, bring another adult bigger than you to watch you over. Leave a comment if you knew about this bushcrafting trick, or if you have any tips for making this method more effective. Alright, see you guys in the next one.